Hey there. We're in Game Four at the Baltimore Memorial Stadium, and we're playing the Yanks versus the Orioles. We're replaying my first season of playing APBA back in '77. Playing the '76 season because you always, when you bought the '77 version, you got the previous year's ball players, and it just heated up some fish in the oven. I'm waiting for that to cool, so this will be a perfect time to get a game in. It's going to be Jimmy Palmer. Jimmy Palmer's a tremendous player. He had 22 wins, a 2.51 ERA. This is a dominant pitcher for about 15, 20 years in the major leagues. I mean, the guy is mind boggling how many innings he threw. 300 innings pitched, 40 games started. He's been doing this for 10 straight years. Had some injuries early on, but kind of overcame those and went on to have an amazing career. This guy is a Hall of Famer, uh, you know, above and beyond, if you will. And we're going to get started right away, not spend a lot of time chit chatting, even though there will be chit chat during the broadcast. And it's the '76 Yanks. They end up going to the World Series and versus '76 Orioles, who had a pretty good record themselves. Don't know exactly what it is, but I know it was pretty good. And here we go. It's APBA Basic, and all the cards are sheeted, protected to minimize the grime on the cards from so much. I've seen cards that guys have kind of been all over and they're not pretty. So I'm protecting these, and let's move on. Here's Mickey Rivers, and he grounds out to the shortstop. Belanger rifles at the first and gets Mick the Quick by a step. He can fly down that line. Ends up in Texas, spot 79. Hey there, man. Jerry Ball, Jim Palmer, yes. What a guy. What a ball player, huh? And it's a 43, and that's going to be a ground ball right back to Palmer. He feels his position, and that's two away. This will be Thurman Munson, 44. That's going to be a 7, so that's a line drive. Base hit for Squatty Munson. Squatty Munson batted 302. He's DHing. I believe he starts the season 76 with some sort of injury because he hasn't caught a game yet in the first 4 games. A guy named Rick Dempsey has been catching all the games. So Munson must be injured. He must have some sort of leg injury of some kind that's keeping him from catching, but he's, well enough to bat. So here's Chris Chambliss, who hit 17 home runs with a 293 batting average, drove in 96 runs. It's going to be a 31. That's going to be an 8. And we got to go to the APBA charts, something I love so much. And it's going to be a ground ball, and that's hit to the first baseman, Muser. Muser flips to the pitcher covering for the third out. The Yanks leave one, and after half an inning, it's 0 with the Orioles coming to bat. And for the Yanks, it's going to be Doc Ellis on the mound. Now, Doc Ellis is from the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he's had a outstanding career as well. He was 17-8 with a 3.19 ERA. Doc Ellis, and he's going to face Bunbury, Blair, and Singleton. And that's a 66. So Bunbury starts out with a bang. Let's see what that becomes. So that ball is hammered into the the left field corner, and it rattles around out there. And Bunbury's hustling around second, and here comes the throw to third, and he is safe with a triple, a leadoff triple against Doc Ellis. So Bunbury took a fastball and lined it to left into the corner, and White had a little trouble getting a hold of it and got it in as quick as he could, but no chance to get Bunbury at third. And it's going to be Blair. The infield's going to be in. It's going to be 13, and that's a strikeout. That's a strikeout. Oh, wait, a 13 with a run on third. He's an R. Ellis is an R. This is a new symbol that's just recent. And this symbol limits the strikeouts. Yep. It's a fly ball lifted to center, but it won't be deep enough to score Bunbury. But that's what happens with the strikeouts with pitchers with R. Basically, every 13, which is usually an automatic strikeout. Yes, absolutely. His best days were in Pittsburgh. Um, the R turns strikeouts for your average pitcher into fly balls and pop ups and that sort of thing. Just a guy that wouldn't strike out, had a lot of movement on his pitches, threw maybe a lot of junk, had guys ahead and behind and chopping down and all this stuff. Wasn't really a strikeout pitcher, but got a lot of outs on the ground or via pop up or fly ball. And they now use an R. In the later years, in the modern time, they use an R to kind of show that. So it's going to be Singleton now. So Blair flies out to center, short center field, and Bunbury's still at third. The infield's going to be in. It's going to be a 53, a 17. And in right field, we have Gamble. And I don't even know what Gamble is. Gamble's a 1. It's not a very good fielder out there. So a 17 is going to be a ball that Gambles misplays, and it hits off his glove, and it drops. And that's going to be an E9. So Singleton is on. And Bunbury scores. So we don't know what would have happened if Bunbury would have, if that was deep enough for Bunbury to score. But he scores on an error, and Singleton's on at first. Here's the pitch to Andres Mora. Now Mora batted .218 with 6 home runs. And we roll a 12 with a runner on first. And that's going to be a ground ball to the second baseman. And that's Randolph. He flips to Mason, Jim Mason, for the force out. Actually, no. That's going to be a 4-6-3 double play, and the Yanks are out of the inning. The Orioles score 1, and at the end of 1, it is 1-0 Orioles. We go to the top of the second. It's going to be Gamble, Nettles, and Dempsey against Jim Palmer. Say 34, and that's lifted to center. A couple of steps back is Paul Blair. Out number 1. Now Nettles, the third baseman for the Yanks, has good power. He belted 32 home runs in 1976. Say 36, and that's ball 4. So Nettles is on. Manages a walk against Palmer, somebody who has some questionable control. He did walk almost 100 batters. So that's basically 3 walks a game. So he does have questionable control for an A pitcher. And that's a 55 for Dempsey, and that's going to be an 8. An 8 is a pretty easy out with a runner at first. It's going to be a ground ball right back to the first baseman, and Nels is going to hustle over to second and flips it to Palmer covering for the second out. Pitcher rarely strikes out bad. Yes, exactly. And that's what I just learned. That's a symbol I haven't really seen. There aren't that many players from that I've seen, that I've experienced, to having that R symbol. And now that I'm seeing what it is and what it does, it's clearer to me, and it'll help me move a little bit faster. And it's going to be Willie Randolph with Nettles on his second. Here's the pitch. It's a 43, and that's a 29. And that's going to be I believe it's a strikeout. Let's see. 29, and it is. It's a strikeout. So Palmer strikes out Randolph for the third out, and the Yanks leave 1 here in the top of the second. We go to the bottom of the second, 1-0 Orioles. It's going to be Doc Ellis facing Gritch, Muser, and Robinson. Now, Gritch hit 13 home runs, batted .266, but he's a 9 second baseman. So he's a Gold Glove style second baseman, according to APBA. It's a 52, and that's a ground ball hit right at Nettles. Nettles handles it with ease, and 1 away. Next is going to be Tony Muser. Muser batted .227 with 1 home run. It's a 36, and that's a pop-up to the shortstop, and Mason waits for it. 2 outs. should have a card flipper, right? Just flips your card for you. You don't have to do anything. Just roll the dice, flips your card for you, and you're ready to roll. 27, that's another hard hit ground ball. Pull down the line. Nettles comes up with it and across the diamond for the third out. So after 2, it's 1-0 Orioles. Palmer is going to face Mason, Rivers, and White. Whoa, geez, 65, and that's a pop-up. It's behind the plate, and back there goes Duncan. Catches it by the screen, out number 1. Yes. Wow, the 100th anniversary of the NL and the 75th for the AL. Fascinating, man. I knew it was the bicentennial, right? It's a bicentennial year. Was not aware that it was also 100 years for the NL. That is very cool. It's an exciting time. I remember all the bicentennial stuff that came out. You could read about it in the comic books, and it was a great time, man. Growing up in that time there was nothing like it. Right? I mean, all right, 41. That's a ground ball hit at the shortstop. Belanger throws Rivers out. Mick the Quick Rivers. Hey there, Mike. How are you, bud? And it's Roy White here with 2 outs in the top of the 3rd. Orioles lead at 1-0. It's Jimmy Palmer versus Doc Ellis. And that's a 26. And that's a ground ball hit right at Brooks Robinson. And Robinson throws him out. And that's 3 up, 3 down for Jimmy Palmer. And we go to the bottom of the 3rd. Now, Doc Ellis won 17 games, pitched in only 32 starts. So that's pretty good. I mean, 3.19 ERA. And he's going to face Duncan, a guy named Dave Duncan. I think Dave Duncan is a catcher that's been with the Orioles for a while. I think I remember him from the early 70s. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's been there for a while. 65, and that's a pop-up. And that's back to the screen. Back goes Dempsey and makes the catch, out number 1. And it's Belanger next. Belanger, actually, in 76, batted .270. I mean, he's known for, great glove and weak bat. But he batted .270. I've seen his card with batting .280 in the early 70s. So, I mean, he hung in there. He wasn't a guy like Mendoza, who played an amazing shortstop, had amazing speed, but never batted over 200. Mark Belanger. And that's a 10. And that against a B pitcher is going to be, I believe it's a hit. It's a line drive base hit to center field for Mark Belanger with 1 out here in the bottom of the 3rd. Go to the top of the order. Let's flip the deck over. Okay, it's going to be a 44, and that's an 8. And that's going to be a ground ball right at Nettles. Nettles over to first, 2 away. And Belanger moves to second base. Now, Blair has a chance to drive in a run here. Paul Blair batted .197. Wow, and almost 400 at-bats. What happened to his career? He did hit only 3 home runs. Wow. This guy was a tremendous ball player. 22, and that's an 8 with a runner at second. That's going to be an out against a B pitcher. And that's going to be a ground ball right back to Doc Ellis. He fields his position and throws out Blair for the 3rd out. So the Orioles leave a runner in scoring position, and we go to the top of the 4th. Top of the 4th is going to be Munson, Chambliss, and Gamble. Munson is 1 for 1 today. And that's a 53. That's a 19. And I doubt that's going to be an error on the... And it is. Oh, my goodness. Brooks Robinson boots one. And Munson is on first base. It's an error on Brooks Robinson. How often do you see that? And it's a 54 that's lifted to right field. Out there is the Singleton, Kenny Singleton. and one away. Career 228. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's known. He's remembered as being a guy with a very weak bat, a very strong glove. But I've seen a few of his cards where he's batting 250, he's batting 270. I've seen one of his cards with batting 287. I mean, so not every year was that poor. I guess he had some really decent years and some really, really poor years to end up with a 228 batting average. So that's a 44 against Gamble. Oscar Gamble, lefty hitting outfielder for the Yanks, and we roll a 44. That's going to be an 8 against an A pitcher. And that's going to be a ground ball to Muser playing first. Flips to Palmer covering. Munson over to second. 2 outs now. And it's going to be Greg Nettles, the power hitting Gold Glove third baseman for the Yankees. And that's a 13. That's ball 4. Second time Nettles has walked. And here's Dempsey. Dempsey batted 194 with no home runs, so he's not a danger of any kind. He lifts a high fly ball to left field. Bumbry takes a few steps in and squeezes it for the 3rd out. The Yanks leave 2. And after 3.5, it's 1-0 Orioles. In the bottom of the inning, it's going to be Singleton, Mora, and Bobby Grich against Doc Ellis. It's a 44. That's going to be a ground ball to Nettles. Over to first, 1 away. Andre Mora. And that's a 15. And that's a fly out. It's going to be Rivers in center, measuring it, 2 away. And 43. And that's a comebacker. Ellis takes a few steps towards first, underhands it, and 3 outs. 3 up, 3 down. Quick inning. Or quick half inning. Top of the 5th. It's going to be Randolph Mason and Rivers, Mickey Rivers. That's a 36. That's going to be a swing and a miss, strike 3. That's Palmer's 2nd strikeout. It's going to be Jim Mason. Jim Mason and Freddie Stanley, Chicken Stanley, kind of platoon that's short. 3-6, and that's a strikeout again. Swing and a miss. 3rd strikeout for Palmer, out number 2. And now we're going to have Mick the Quick. .25, and that's single up the middle. So Mick the Quick is on first. And the next batter is White, and Palmer throws over. Throws over again. Quick has a nice lead, but he's quick back to the bag. And Palmer sets and deals, and there goes Rivers. And it's the throw from Duncan, and he's safe under the tag. So Mickey Rivers steals second with 2 outs here. So he's in scoring position now for White. The count is 1-0 on White. Palmer looks in for the sign. Sets and deals. And that's popped up. And that's popped up. In foul territory, Robinson makes the catch. So we go to the bottom of the 5th, still 1-0 Orioles. We got a little pitcher's duel here. It's going to be Muser, Robinson, and Duncan. Here's the pitch to Muser. And that's going to be a line drive, base hit, right field for Tony Muser. And he's an average speed guy, so he has potential to take an extra base. And Robinson, Brooks Robinson, 3 home runs and .211 batting average. Yeah, that's what we got here. Well, we got a couple errors, but we got an error from the right fielder, Oscar Gamble. And then we have an error by Brooks Robinson. So we do have a couple of errors here. And the only run actually scored on an error. But yeah, overall, they're good defensive players in this game for sure. All right, so Muser's on at first, and we're going to bunt with Brooks Robinson. He's not the player. He's not the player he was once, and that's going to be a successful sacrifice. Over to second goes Muser. He's on at second, 1 out. It's going to be David Duncan now. Dave Duncan hit 4 home runs, batted .204. A lot of .204 batters in this 76 Baltimore Oriole team. And that's going to be a 66, and that we'll see what that turns into. And that is line to left field, base hit. And let's see what happens here. Let's see what the third base coach says. It's going to be a single over second and left field, rather. And the runner scores. So an RBI single for Duncan, and the Orioles are up 2-0 now. Nice managerial move by, what was his name again? Oh, lost the feed. That's not good. And what was his, oh man, I can't remember the Duncan 52. Wait a second. Okay. Got distracted there. All right, Belanger now with Duncan at first. There's 1 out. Orioles lead at 2-0 here in the bottom of the 5th. 66. Okay, so the dice are not rolling in Doc Ellis' favor. 51, and that's going to be lined into the gap. And hustling to third base is going to be Duncan. He's going to stop there, and Belanger is on with a double. So second and third now, 1 out, and it's going to be Al Bunbury. So the Yanks are going to have to bring the infield in. That's a 26. That's a 12. Let's see what that ends up being. A 12. And that's going to be a strikeout. So Doc Ellis gets his first strikeout in an opportune time for the second out. His first strikeout is going to be Paul Blair next. Runners on second and third. The Yanks are down 2-0 here in the bottom of the 5th. It's Doc Ellis versus Jim Palmer. That's a 45. That looks like it's going to be a ball 4 to Paul Blair, so the bases are now loaded. And probably the best hitter for the Orioles is coming to the plate. Kenny Singleton, 13 home runs and a .278 batting average. The Orioles got Singleton from the Mets. Yeah, well, another one of those doozies, right? They traded away Nolan Ryan for Jim Fregosi. Then they traded away Singleton. I'm not sure who they got for Singleton. But the bases are loaded now. And Munson's going to go out to the mound. He's going to talk to Ellis. They're going to have a little meeting at the mound right now. Kenny Singleton versus Doc Ellis. There's 2 outs. The bases are loaded. The Yanks are still in the game. They're only down 2-0 here in the bottom of the 5th. Infield is back now with 2 outs. And Duncan is at third, Belanger is at second, and Blair is on at first. We want to avoid a hit here by Kenny Singleton. Otherwise, it's not going to fare well for the Yanks. They haven't been doing too much on offense. They only have, against Palmer so far, they basically have 2 hits and 1 walk. They've reached base 1 other time on an error, so they're not doing much against Palmer, so they don't want to give up any more runs. Let's see what happens here. It's all in the dice. And that's a 66. That's not a good sign for Doc Ellis. That ball is hit over the center fielder's head and way over the center fielder's head, and that's a grand slam home run for Kenny Singleton. So the Orioles lead at 6-0 now, and the Doc Ellis wishes he had that pitch back. Yeah, exactly. That changes the whole configuration of the game now. And it's going to be Andres Mora against Doc Ellis. 51, and that's a 9. And that's going to be a line drive base hit for Mora. And it looks like we're going to have to go to the bullpen because I believe that with that run, That's going to turn Ellis into a C pitcher, and I can just tell that Ellis is totally demoralized at this point. And we're going to grab. We're going to grab. See if we can. Okay. We're going to grab here. Oh, look at that. I got. We're going to take a quick peek. So the manager, Billy Martin, is going out to the mound. It's his first visit. And you can tell just by Billy's strut that he's not happy. We don't want it in a game right now. It's a 6-0 game. We're going to let Doc Ellis is going to stay out there. He's going to pitch to Bobby Grich. 6-0 Yanks. It's a 15. Bobby Grich, that's going to be a 10. That may be another hit. And, oh boy. Oh boy. Wow, turning all these pages, so many charts. Ellis is a C. We rolled a 15. That's a 10. It's a single to right, runner to third, batter steals second. So it's a single. Mora goes to third. And it's a stolen base by Grich. And second and third now, and it's going to be Tony Muser. And it's going to be Dick Tidrow. Out comes Billy. He's calling to the bullpen. Out comes Dick Tidrow. And he's going to be an A against Muser. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. So Ellis really gets banged up here in the bottom of the 5th inning. And it's going to be Tidrow against Muser. That's a 65 with runners on second and third. Again, going to this chart. Gotta flip around. I saw a product today that holds the book up for you. And all you got to do is flip the pages. You can get it at like an Office Depot type place. That way I don't have to keep on lifting up the book every time I want to go through it. And it's, what do you roll? It's 35, and that's going to be a foul out on the right side, foul territory, and that's Chambliss over there, and that's a third out. But the damage has been done here, and the Orioles score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits, mostly off Ellis, well, all off Ellis, and they lead it 6-0 now here in the top of the 6th. Let's see what the Yanks can muster, what kind of offense the Yanks can muster. Maybe get a couple of runs back. 2 runs in the 6th, 2 runs in the 7th, 2 runs in the 8th, and they win it 7-6 in the 9th. And here's Thurman Munson, who's 1 for 2 against Jim Palmer. That's a ball that's lined to center field. Bumbry is there. So Munson hit it on the nose, but right at Bumbry. Chambliss, 36, and that's a swing and a miss, strike 3. 4th strikeout for Palmer. Palmer is dominant at this point. It's going to be Oscar Gamble, the lefty outfielder for the Yanks. That's a 65. It's popped up behind the plate, foul territory, and there Duncan's there. And it's 3 up, 3 down very, very quickly for the Yanks. And it's going to be Tidrow. Tidrow against Brooks Robinson, Duncan, and Belanger. It's a 25 against Tidrow, who is an A, and that's going to be an out of some kind. It's ground ball right at Belanger. I'm sorry, ground ball right at Mason, out number 1. Duncan. And that's hit hard right at Jim Mason. Mason takes his time, throws out Duncan, doesn't run very well. And it's Mark Belanger, 42. That's going to be a 23. We don't know what that is. That's a 23 under a B, and that's going to be a ball that's hit to Rivers, and Rivers misplays it, hits off his glove, and it drops. So Belanger's on with an error. Mickey Rivers with an error. That's a second outfield error for the Yanks today. with 2 outs. It's going to be Al Bumbry, top of the order. It's a 56. It's a 34. With Belanger on at first. And that's going to be a pop-up. And Mason calls everybody off, makes the catch for the 3rd out. So we go to the top of the 7th now. It's 6-0 Orioles. It's going to be Nettles, Dempsey, and Randolph against Jim Palmer. Hall of Fame Jim Palmer. Really? Scottsdale, Arizona. Jim Palmer. Cool. Very cool, man. I love that information. You guys throw that those little anecdotes in there. All right, so it's 62 to Greg Nettles. Again, not a great... And that's a strikeout, number 5. For Koufax, K9. Mantle had 2 singles. Manzarowski. That's a great game. I love that game. Sandy Koufax, Mantle. I love those names. I love when I play the early 70s... I'm sorry, the early 60s World Series. There's 1 out. Dempsey. Rick Dempsey, the catcher. That's going to be a 64, and that's a swing and a miss, strike 3. So Palmer is really dominating right now. And here's Randolph, and that's going to be a 42, and that's ball 4. So Randolph is on with a walk. It's going to be Jim Mason next. It's going to be no pinch hitters here. It's a 24. That's a fly ball lifted to right. Singleton squeezes it. So Yanks lead 1 here in the top of the 7th. 6-0 Orioles. We go to the bottom of the 7th. Tidrow's still in there. Don't expect to see any more pitchers here today. It's going to be Blair, Singleton, and Mora against Tidrow. Now Tidrow pitched 92 innings in 47 games. So he averages about a little bit more than, well, a little bit less than 2 innings a game. And it's Blair, and that's a swing and a miss. Strike 1. Singleton is next. Kenny Singleton steps into the box. Singleton hit a grand slam home run. He's 1 for 3 in the bottom of the 5th. And that's a 33, and that's going to go for potential extra bases. Let's see what happens here. 31, and that's laced into right center field, and that's going to roll all the way to the wall. Kenny Singleton, they're having trouble getting that ball out there, and Kenny Singleton is going to try for 3. And here comes the relay from the second baseman, Grich. It's right on the bag, and he's safe under the tag. Singleton, who doesn't really have good speed, manages a triple here in the bottom of the 7th against Dick Tidrow. Infield's in for the Yanks. And it's going to be Andres Mora, 218 batter. Sure was. And it's going to be a pop-up with a runner on 3rd. And that's Chambliss calling for it in fair territory. 2 out now. Singleton's on the 3rd. And it's Bobby Grich. Bobby Grich is 1 for 3 with a stolen base. Grich stole 14 bases in 76. And that's lined right at Randolph for the 3rd out. The Orioles lead 1. And after 7 innings, it's 6-0 Orioles. Go to top of the 8th. It's going to be the top of the order for the Yanks against Jim Palmer. Jim Palmer's pitching a 1-2 hitter here. So you're seeing one of those gems, right? Pitched by Palmer. It's 25, Rivers, and that's lined base hit center field. Make the quick on at first. Always a danger on the bases. So Palmer's going to throw over in a 6-0 game. Rivers has carte blanche. He runs when he wants. And White is in the box, and Palmer looks in, he sets, and there goes Rivers, and here's the throw from Duncan, and White swings, and the throw, and he's safe under the tag. So Rivers gets the second stolen base of the game. Six runs down, and Rivers is shameless, shameless. Wow. And that's going to be ball four to Roy White. So Roy White manages a walk against Palmer. The second walk, third walk, actually, fourth walk that Palmer's given up, and runners on first and second, nobody out. So the Yanks have a little something going here finally in the top of the eighth inning. Earl Weaver, that's who the manager's. Earl Weaver's coming out now, and he's going to talk to Palmer, make sure he's okay and he's not tired, because Rivers lined the single, and then Roy White walked on right away. So Munson is coming to bat, and Munson hit 17 home runs in 1976. Drove in 105 runs, and that's pretty amazing how you drive in 105 runs with 17 home runs. So that's a lot of clutch hitting. He had a 302 batting average and 14 stolen bases. I mean, it's a different era, totally different era. And this is being done against, top quality pitchers. So anyway, Munson first and second. Here, Palmer looks in for the sign from Duncan. He sets and he deals. And it's going to be a 13, and that's going to be a 22 with runners on first and second. Going back to the charts. 22. And that's going to be a ball that's nubbed. And Palmer picks it up and drops it, and everybody's safe. Palmer looked at third, thought about going there, but Rivers is lightning, so he was there already. And then when he turned to look at Munson was flying down the line, and that's going to be an E1. The bases are now loaded for Chris Chambliss. So the Yanks have something going here in the top of the eighth inning. May make this an exciting game. Chris Chambliss has a pretty decent card. He batted .293, had a .441 slugging, 17 home runs. So he's got some power, a little bit of power. Here's the pitch to Chambliss, and that's a 37. What is that going to be? 37 with the bases loaded. 37 is a flyout, and all runners advance one base. Flyout to deep center field. Hustling back there is Paul Blair, and he makes the catch, stumbles a little bit, and so Rivers scores. White goes to third, and Munson hustles into second base. That was hitting no man's land out there. And that's an RBI for Chambliss. And with second and third, it's going to be Oscar Gamble against Jim Palmer. One out now. Here's the pitch to Gamble. Ooh, my goodness, 29. Second and third. Infield's back. Second and third, 29. I said 29, right? 23, is it 29? 29. It's going to be a comebacker right at Palmer. And everybody's going to hold two away. It's going to be Nettles. Greg Nettles hit 32 home runs. He's walked twice in this game. He's actually 0 for 1. He walked twice and struck out. Here's the pitch from Palmer to Nettles. Oh boy, that's lifted to deep right field. There's no doubt about that one. And that's out of here. 3-run home run, making it 6-4 here in the top of the eighth. So Greg Nettles comes up clutch with a 3-run mammoth home run to right field. Took that Palmer fastball and demolished it, sent it to right field. And the crowd is silent. They fall silent here. Nobody ever expected that. And Earl Weaver is just not happy. You can tell that just by looking at him. And I think he's one of the managers that got thrown out the most. So I know that Palmer wishes he had that pitch back. And it's going to be Rick Dempsey now. The score is 6-4. The Yanks are back in it. Very exciting. And that's going to be a 64, and that's a swing and a miss, strike 3 for the third out. So the Yanks come up with 4 big runs here in the top of the eighth inning. helped along by an error, a bases load. Well, an error by Palmer that allowed the bases to become loaded. It was a potential double play ball. And after 2 outs, it was Greg Nettles that came up to the plate and swung on and stroked a Jim Palmer fastball into the upper deck here in Memorial Stadium, making the score 6-4 now. The Orioles are up in the bottom of the 8th. Exciting game now. It's going to be Tony Muser against Dick Tidrow, who's still in there for the Yanks. This is Tidrow's third inning. He's gone 1 2/3. Oh, actually, no. He's gone 2 innings. This is going to be his. You know what? We're gonna replace Tidrow. His average is about 2 innings, and now in a 6-4 game, we're going to bring in a little guy named Grant Jackson. Grant Jackson is a lefty out of Fostoria, Ohio. He was 7-1 with a 2.54 ERA in 78 innings pitched. So he contributed tremendously to the Yankee World Series experience in '76. And it's going to be Tony Muser, lefty versus lefty. Here's Jackson now. Jackson's going to be orange. And he's going to go at least this inning, at least three batters. Let's get him in there. Jackson. All right, so this turned into a ball game. Here is the pitch from Jackson to Muser, and that's going to be a fly ball lifted to right field. Gamble a few steps over towards the line and makes the catch. 1 away. Exactly what you want, a 1-2-3 inning. The Yanks have come back with 4 runs in the top of the 8th, making it 6-4 ball game now. And that's a 26. Brooks Robinson, he's 0 for 2. And that's a ground ball right at Nettles. And Nettles rifles it across the diamond, out number 2. And Dave Duncan is 1 for 3. He scored a run and driven in a run. And that's a 32, and that's a bouncer to the right side. Randolph, out number 3. 3 up, 3 down for Buck Jackson, Jackson, who I think at one time was an Oriole, was he not? I don't know. That's a good question. I have that sense that he was an Oriole at one time, so I don't know. Okay, so it's the top of the 9th now. The Orioles failed to score in the bottom of the 8th. It's the top of the 9th, so it's last licks, if you will, for the Yanks to try to come back. They need 2 runs to tie and 3 to take the lead. And it's Willie Randolph is going to lead it off against Jim Palmer, who's still in there. Jim Palmer pitched over 300 innings. He's still in there here. In the top of the 9th, here's the pitch to Randolph. And it's going to be a 55, and that's going to be a 9. And against an A pitcher, that's going to be a fly ball lifted to center. And that's Paul Blair. And Blair, Gold Glove center fielder, makes it look easy out there. That's 1 away. Next is going to be Jim Mason. And we're going to see a pinch hitter. Mason is a 180 hitter. So we're going to see a pinch hitter here, and it's going to be Sweet Lou Piniella. Sweet Lou is going to pinch hit for Mason. Top 9. Lou Piniella. Here goes the pitch to Lou Piniella. And that's a 66. And that's clobbered into left field. And that's going to be into the gap. And cutting it off is Bumbry. And Bumbry gets it in quickly. But Pinella's on second with a double. So a double for Lou, pinch hit double for Lou Piniella against Jimmy Palmer. And it's Mick the Quick now. So the tying run is at the plate for the Yanks here with 1 out in the top of the 9th inning. Here's the pitch from Palmer. It's a fly ball lifted to right field. Right fielder is Kenny Singleton. He's there. Squeezes it for out number 2. So the Yanks are down to their last out here. The tying run is at the plate in Roy White. Roy White hit 14 home runs, stole 31 bases, with a 286 batting average against Jim Palmer. And today he's 0 for 3 with a walk. He walked last time at bat and scored on the 3-run homer by Greg Nettles. And that's a 31, and that's a 9 with a runner on second. It's probably going to be an out against an A pitcher. And it looks like it's going to be the ball game. And it is. It's a ground ball to Belanger. Belanger fields it over to first, and out number 3, game over. The Yanks make it exciting. They come back with 4 runs in the top of the 8th, but lose the ball game to Jim Palmer, who gets the victory. Doc Ellis gets the loss. That's game number 4 of her 1976 replay. Living the 1970s, and ball game is over. So I'm going to go grab my dinner, and that's the final score is Orioles 6, Yankees 4. It was game 4, April 13th. Yeah, it was a great game. It was an exciting game. You know, it turned out, I thought it was it was going to be a blowout, and all of a sudden they score 4 runs on top of the 8th. So anyway, that's it. I guess player of the game is Jim Palmer. And for the Yanks, it's got to be Greg Nettles, who hit that 3-run homer in the top of the 8th. And that's it. And I'll go have my dinner, and then I'll come back and play a game of Strat. 2016 Mets. My Met replay. Loving that. Okay? All right. Talk to you soon. Bye now.